Good evening, Richmonders. Pardon my California accent. Welcome to Liberation Day 2014. My name is Anna Edwards. I'm chair of the Sacred Ground Historical Reclamation Project. And today we are gathered to reclaim Richmond. We are gathered to reclaim resistance. And we are gathered to reclaim this Liberation Day. In 1865, on this day, the Union troops, led by black soldiers, entered the city of Richmond and ended slavery in this city for all time to come. We're warming up. I want to let you all know that the way that this program is going to work today is that we are going to have a libation ceremony here by Omelade Janine Bell from the Elegba Society, followed by a reading of an eyewitness account of Richmond's liberation and the tearing open of the slave jails by black soldiers. At 6:35, we will move to the site of William Goodwin's slave jail at 17th and East Gray Streets, where we will hear from Dr. Kim Allen, who will give an historical overview of slavery and the slave trade in Richmond. We will hear from Elizabeth Camborian, who will give an explanation of the slave trade-related sites in the footprint of the proposed revitalized RVA Economic Development Plan. And we will hear from Lindsay Williams, the great-great-great-granddaughter of 12 Years a Slave author Solomon Northup. And she will give a reading of his account of the night that he spent in the slave jail located in the proposed stadium area. We will mark the sites, the historic sites in the bottom, and we will leave a sign. And it will read, Site of the Goodwin Templeton Jail, where 12 Years a Slave author Solomon Northup was held in the spring of 1841. This is sacred ground. Do not disturb. No stadium allowed. Of the 10 other slavery-related sites that are targeted for the revitalized RVA plan, 3 are also within the proposed stadium area. At 7:15, we will gather at 17th and East Broad Streets, which is the site of Silas Omohundro's slave jail. And we will have a presentation on the importance of remembering what our ancestors endured by Janet Queen Nzinga Taylor, a member of the African Ancestral Chamber. At 7:30, we will gather at the African Burial Ground. And there you will hear a presentation on the life of the Great Slave Rebellion leader Gabriel, executed there on October 10th of 1800. That will be given by Vinnie Weeks, who is president of the Richmond chapter of All as One Division. There will be a report on the organizing work that is being done to stop a stadium from being built in Shockoe Bottom by Phil Boleto, who is editor of the Virginia Defender newspaper. And at 7:50, that's 10 minutes to 8, there will be cultural presentations coordinated by Lillie Estes of the ALO Community Strategy Consulting and Joss Sparks of Urban Awareness. The best thing about being here and about being gathered on this site is that we ask no permission. We reclaim this site. We reclaim our history. And we reclaim our right to determine what happens in the future. And so I'm extremely pleased to be a part of this program and really, really delighted to see how many of you have come out tonight. So give yourselves a hand and the ancestors a hand. I'm going to turn it over to Janine Bell, who will now do the libation to start the evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Our ceremonies and our rituals keep us whole. In African societies and in many African-descended societies, and among people of the earth who recognize the oneness of nature, ancestral homage is key to wholeness. We must honor those who have come before us, those whose names we know and those whose names we don't. For their energy brought us into this moment. And while we recognize the privilege and the responsibility of being in the moment, the present time is not a vacuum. We are a link in an eternal chain, and our energy is, in this moment, creating the future. Past, present, and future are all now. Our responsibility therein is in the recreation and maintenance of order. And so I'm going to ask you if you'll just take this moment to breathe. As we release and get grounded, breathe. Recognizing that God is the breath inside the breath as we breathe. Some of us have photographs in our homes, names in a holy book, and the relics of our memory. Bring that vibration into this space. Bring their walk into our walk. Bring their commitment into our heads. Bring their love into our hearts as today we pour libation. And I'm going to ask all of you if you could come down to the ground with me, or if you cannot, at least bend your backs over a little bit. In the Yoruba language, Omi tutu, cool water. Ona tutu, cool road. Ile tutu, cool earth. To call for the spirits of our ancestors. Mojubobo, we cool. Mojubobo, we cool. Mojubobo, we cool. Call out their names. Mojubobo, we cool. Call out their names. Call out their names.
Brother Gabriel, Mama Harriet,
Jasper Young Bell, Ruth Price Bell, James Evelyn Harrison Price, James L. Price,
Mandy Rush,
Mariah Blair, Armistead Blair, Sonora Hope Bell, Willis Bell, Mojubobo, we cool. 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 We pay homage to our ancestors, those who are fortunate to be buried in the soils of Africa, the cradle of civilization. We pay homage to those who were the mothers and the fathers, who were the architects, the scientists, the educators, the agriculturalists, the mathematicians, the community builders, the spiritual leaders, the warriors. If you agree, we say Ashe. To those who were the natural caretakers of the earth's most precious minerals, Ashe. To those family groups and lines who lived interdependently, thereby creating and maintaining order, Ashe. And we pay homage to those who withstood the daily, life-changing sacrifices made under European colonization and the transatlantic trade of enslaved Africans. Ashe. We pay homage to those who were lost in the Middle Passage, to those who could not endure the months at sea, objectified as cargo in horrifically inhumane conditions that disallowed cleanliness, warmth, nourishment, or love. We honor the water that is your eternal home. Ashe. We pay homage to those whose bones rest in the earth in the Americas. Ashe. We thank those who lived in the shackles of bondage and its legacy. Ashe. We thank the thousands of Africans among the first in America who came through Richmond's notorious markets, bringing both the knowledge and strength of the motherland and despair. Ashe. We thank those who were sold by Lumpkin, Omohundro, and Davenport, who still made life happen on nearby plantations inside Richmond or destinations down the river, who have lived their lives so that we could have a different life. Ashe. We pay homage to Solomon Northup, who was among the many to pass through Richmond's revolving doors, who before dark arrived in Richmond in what he called the chief city of Virginia. Ashe. We remember our beloved ancestor who was mandated to Gooden's pen for an unfortunate night during his unfortunate journey. Ashe. We remember all those who were subjected to Gooden's examination houses to determine their human value inhumanely as if a horse. Ashe. We pay homage to those on whose unpaid backs the foundational success of the American economy was systematically built. Ashe. Whose descendants, despite our advances, remain largely in exclusion as second-class citizens. Ashe. We pay homage to the first Africans to make their ancestral transition in Richmond, in what has been reclaimed as Richmond's African burial ground. Ashe. We thank the 3,000 black men, the USCTs, who claimed Richmond for the Union Army on April 3rd, 1865, effectively ending the Civil War and enslavement. Ashe. We honor in memory those who rose through Reconstruction, the Black Codes, Jim Crow, massive resistance, the Civil Rights Movement, and the Black Power Movement. Ashe. We honor in memory their clarity, freedom fighters all. Ashe. Burn with the need for social justice and empowerment. Ashe. We are because you were. It is upon your broad shoulders that we stand, for you have trod the path to make our way clearer. We ask for your continued blessings. Ashe. And we remember our elders, our parents, our teachers, at whose feet we are blessed to sit to absorb your wisdom. We ask for your continued guidance and protection. Ashe. And for our children, for it is through you who we will live our future. We ask for your continued vision and vitality. Ashe. May these cool waters and spirits quench the souls of our ancestors, nourish the spirits of our children, and make clear the power of this moment. Ashe. Be the will of God. As it was said, so it shall be. Ashe.
Thank you, Omelade. Is Ms. Estes here? I would like to let you all know before I turn it over to Ms. Estes that we do have copies of the petition for you to sign, but we also have enough so that you can take them with you and get signatures as well. I'd now like to turn it over to Ms. Lillie Estes, who will read an eyewitness account of Richmond's liberation.
Good evening, everyone. There will be a moment while I position myself for this. And this is an account of the liberation of Richmond the day after in 1865. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, how about now? Okay, this is an account of the liberation of Richmond and the tearing open of the slave jails by one Thomas Morris Chester, Black Civil War Correspondent, on April 4th, 1864, the fall of Richmond. Seated in the speaker's chair, so long dedicated to treason, but in the future to be consecrated to loyalty, I hasten to give a rapid sketch of the incident. Which have occurred since my last dispatch. To Major General Godfrey Ritzel was assigned the duty of capturing Richmond. The last evening he had determined upon storming the rebel works in front of the Fort Burnham. The proper dispositions were all made. Dispositions were all made, and the knowing ones retired with dim, visions of this stronghold of treason floating before them. Nothing occurred in the first part of the evening to awaken suspicion, though for the past few days it has been known to the authorities that the rebels, as I informed you, were evacuating the city. After midnight, explosions began to occur so frequently as to confirm the evidence already in possession of the General-in-Chief that the last acts of an outgeneraled army were in course of progress. The immense flames curling up throughout the rebel camps indicated that they were destroying all that could not be taken away. The soldiers along the line gathered upon the breastworks to witness the scene and exchange congratulations. While thus silently gazing upon the columns on fire, one of the monster rams were exploded, which made the very earth tremble. If there was any doubt about the evacuation of Richmond, that reported banished them all. In a very few moments, though still dark, the army of the James, or rather that part of it under General Ritzel, was put in motion. It did not require much time to get all the men in lighting march order. Every regiment tried to be first. All cheerfully moved off with accelerated speed. The pickets which were on the line during the night were in the advance. Brigadier General Draper's Brigade of Colored Troops Division were the first infantry to enter the city. The gallant 36 U.S. Colored Troops under Lieutenant Colonel B.F. Pratt had the honor of being the first regiment. Captain Pinnell's company had the pride of leading the advance. The column having passed through Fort Burnham over the rebel works where they were moving heavy and light pieces of artillery, which the enemy in haste was obliged to leave behind, moved into the Osborne Road, which leads directly into the city. In passing over the rebel works, we moved very cautiously in single file for fear of exploding the innumerable torpedoes which were planted in front. So far as I can learn, none has been exploded and no one has been injured by those infernal machines. The soldiers were soon under the engineers, carefully digging them up and making the passageway beyond the fear of casualties. Along the road which the troops marched, or rather double-quick batches of Negroes were gathered together, testifying by the unmistakable signs their delight at our coming. Rebel soldiers who had hid themselves when the army move came out of the bushes and gave themselves up as disgusted with the service. The haste of the rebels was evident in guns, camp equipage, telegraph wires, and other army property, which they had not have time to burn. When the column was about 2 miles from Richmond, General Witzel and staff passed by at a rapid speed and was hailed by loud cheering. He soon reached the city, which was surrendered to him informally at the State House by Mr. Joseph Mayo, the mayor. The general and staff rode up Main Street amid the hearty congratulations of a loud crowd of colored persons and poor whites who were gathered together upon the sidewalks manifesting every demonstration of joy. There were many persons in the better class houses who were peeping out of their windows and whose movement indicated that they would need watching in the future. There was no mistaking the curl of the lips and the flash of their eyes. The new military, Governor of Richmond, will no doubt prove equal to such emergencies. When General Draper's brigade entered the outskirts of the city, it was halted, and the brigade of Devon's division, 24 Corps, passed in to constitute a provost guard. A scene was here witnessed which was not only grand, but upon them the peaceful occupation of this citadel. Tears of joy ran down the faces of the more aged. The soldiers cheered lustily, which were mingled with every kind of expression of delight. The citizens stood gaping in wonder at the splendidly equipped army marching along under the graceful folds of the old flag. Some waved their hats and women their hands in token of gladness. The pious old Negroes, male and female, indulge in such many days. Jesus has opened the way. God bless you. I've not seen that old flag for 4 years. It does my eyes good. Have you come to stay? Thank God. And similar expressions of exhortation. The soldiers, black and white, received these assurances of loyalty and evidence of a latent patriotism of an oppressed people, which a military despotism had not been able to crush. Riding up to a group of fine-looking men whose appearance indicated that they would hardly have influence enough to keep them out of the army, I inquired, how is it they were not taken away with the force of Lee? They replied that they had hid themselves when the rebel army had evacuated the city, and that many more had done likewise, and would soon appear when assured that there were no longer any danger of falling into the power of the traitorous army. These scenes all occurred in terminus of Osborne Road, which connects with the streets of the city, and then within municipal limits. There, General Draper's brigade, with the gallant 36 U.S. CT Drum Corps, played Yankee Doodle and shouting the battle cry of freedom. Amid the cheers of boys and the white soldiers who filed by them, it ought to be stated that the officers of the white troops were anxious to be the first to enter the city with their organizations, and so far succeeded as to procure an order when about the 3 miles distant that General Draper's brigade should take the left to the road in order to allow those of the 24 Corps under General Devon to pass by. General Draper obeyed the order and took to the left of the road in order to let the troops of Devon go by. but at the same time ordered his brigade on a double quick, with knowing that his men would not likely be overtaken on the road by any soldiers in the army. For marching or fighting, Draper's 1st Brigade, 1st Division, 25th Corps is not to be surpassed in the service, and the general honor it would, with a pride and a consciousness, would inspire him to undertake cheerfully whatever may be committed to his execution. It was this brigade that nipped the flower of the Southern Army, the Texas Brigade under Gary, which never before last September knew defeat. There are many others who may claim the distinction of being the first to enter the city, but as I was ahead of every part of the force but the cavalry, which necessity must lead in advance, I know where I affirm when I acknowledged that General Draper's brigade was the first organization to enter the city limits. According to the custom, it should constitute a provost guard of Richmond, Cook's division constituting Draper's and Wild brigades with the troops of the 24, which placed in the trenches around the city, and Thomas' brigade was assigned to garrison Manchester. Proper disposition have been made of the force to give security and soldier-like, place the defenses of the city beyond the possibility of a surprise. As we entered, all government buildings were in flames, having been fired upon by order of the rebel General Ewell. The flames soon communicated themselves to the business part of the city and continued to rage furiously throughout the day. All efforts to arrest this destructive element seemed for the best part of the day of no avail. The fire department of Richmond rendered every aid, and to them and the cooperative labors of our soldiers belongs to the credit of having saved Richmond from the devastating flames. As it is, all that part of the city lying between the 9th and 14th Streets, between Main Street and the river inclusive, is in ruins. Among the most prominent buildings destroyed are the Rebel War Department, Quartermaster General's Department, all the buildings with commissionary stores, Shockoe's and Dribble's warehouse, well stored with tobacco, dispatch and inquiry newspaper buildings, the courthouse, Guy House, Farmers Bank, Bank of Virginia, Exxon, Exchange Bank, Tracers Bank, American and Colombian Hotels, and the Mayo Bridge, which unites Richmond with Manchester. The buildings of the largest merchants are among those who have been reduced to ashes. This is a account of Thomas Morris Chester, Black Civil War Correspondent.
Lillie, for reading that. We are now going to move. We're going to walk over to the site of William Goodwin Slave Jail. That is at 17th and East Gray Street. So we will walk, pretty much turn right around and walk that way. And we'll have to sort of go out of the little fence that's on the other side of the tracks. And we will gather at, again, 17th and East Gray Street. Thank you.